For our Talk with Doc. Today is our Moms panel. We're going to be talking about how to survive during stay-at-home orders, especially during this unprecedented time with COVID-19. It's my honor. I've got 5 very dear friends who are joining me here today. We were supposed to have 6. One of them, Sandra Peoples, is just not going to be able to join us today. Her husband had surgery and she's taking care of him now, had some things come up. So we'll miss her today, but have no fear. She'll be joining us in a couple of weeks, actually, as we talk through dealing with siblings and how to work with siblings. And that's one of her specialties there. But ladies, I'm so honored to have you. And first, before we get into anything, let me wish each and every one of you an early happy Mother's Day. And just, I truly believe a mother of a child with special needs, is just one of the most amazing moms there is, can do so many great and amazing things. And Becky, I think it was kind of ironic. You shared the post that Jeff wrote a couple of years, 3 years ago now, with that. And, he hit it out of the park there, just kind of describing a special needs mom. But a special needs mom is really a mom who can do anything. It can do everything and truly is a superhero and has superpowers. And so I just want to take a minute and tip my hat to each and every one of you, to every mother who's listening with us today. And just want to thank all of you for all that you do. And I know a lot of times you don't get the thanks. You end up with all the cries, then all the, just, you're constantly having a fight and be an advocate for your child. I just want to thank you for all that you do and to all the moms that are out there too today. But let's just go around, and I'd like to have each and every one of you introduce yourself. And then not just that, I want you to share if you have things because I know several of you have things that also are available to moms out there. I want to make our moms aware of that and be able to share that with you. But why don't you introduce yourself, share about your family with us, and then share what all you have. Becky, why don't you lead us off?
Okay. I am Becky Davidson, and I am the mom to my amazing 22-year-old son, John Alex. And John Alex, I like to say he has a smile that lights up a room and is just a joy. But he also happens to have cerebral palsy, autism, and epilepsy, and is full on 24/7 care. And it was out of his life that my late husband, who Doc was talking about a few minutes ago, that Jeff and I started a ministry called Rising Above. And we are an outreach ministry to special needs families, and just do all kinds of events. We used to do lots of in-person events. Now we're having to do lots of things virtually. But we have tons of resources on our website, risingaboveministries.org, small group curriculums, retreats, all kinds of things. And do you want me to talk about By the Brook now, or do you want me to come back to that?
No, go ahead and share it now.
Okay, well, so we do a retreat every summer for moms of children with special needs called By the Brook, where we bring moms in from all around the country and just pamper them and love on them and encourage them and equip them to be able to go back and be the best moms that they can be, just to give them that extra boost to be able to go back in and be encouraged to love their families well. Well, in light of what's going on with the coronavirus, we had to relook at things. So we are doing the event virtually this year. It will be June 26th and 27th, and we're offering it for free to moms all around the world. We already have moms from coast to coast and several different foreign countries signed up. And so we would love, love, love for any of the moms who are listening to go to our website. You can find more information. You do need to sign up so that you'll get emails with all of the links with information on how you can participate. But it'll take place Friday evening on June 26th, and then during the day on the 27th. And so we cannot wait, and we'd love for you to join us.
Yes, great opportunity there. Well, thank you. Laurisa, welcome so much. Oh, I think you're muted there.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Perfect. I'm Laurisa Ballew, and I am the mom to 3 little girls. My oldest daughter, Emmaus, has a genetic disease called tuberous sclerosis complex. And so along with that, she has autism and epilepsy and just a global delay. She is the glue of our family, probably. Her little sisters look up to her so much and love her so much, especially my middle. There's a big size difference between a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old. And so the youngest one's coming around. But they are just such sweet things, sweet sisters. Kind of my big passion is I always hashtag raising a sisterhood, and just this kind of idea of not just like raising siblings to really connect and love each other well, but as women, us being a sisterhood that would really support each other. So whether that's in special needs communities or otherwise, yeah. So I'm a nurse by trade. I work at Children's Mercy, and I work in their urgent care, and I write for Hope Anew, and I speak when I get the opportunity. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Well, thanks for being with us.
Of course.
Lisa, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm Lisa Jamieson, and I'm with Walk Right In Ministries. We're based in Minnesota and serve virtually all over the world. Special needs families connecting in faith and community means a lot of things. So we just try to work creatively to help families foster healthy communities around them and to be a healthy community. Our passion is to help caregivers and special needs families thrive and be resilient in their circumstances. I'm a licensed pastoral counselor, so I do a lot of caregiver consulting and do a lot of that virtually even before all of this. So I'm busy helping as much as I can just give a place of resonance to parents and siblings and families in general. And we do some local events too, but our focus in general is just to provide resources to help families connect. I'm the mom of 3 daughters who are all in their 20s. Our youngest, Carly, will be 22 next week, and she has Angelman syndrome. Angelman syndrome is pretty rare. It's very frequently misdiagnosed as cerebral palsy and autism in the sense that she is nonverbal and she has some autistic-like behaviors from a sensory perspective, mostly because she's actually extremely social, almost compulsively so, and as delightful as that is, it's extraordinarily challenging at times, especially during this quarantine, because her anxieties are really high when she can't be out and about or with all of her peeps. She has a seizure disorder, a very medication-resistant one, and a medication-resistant sleep disorder. Sleep has been an issue in our home for 22 years. She has very limited expressive communication of any kind, but her receptive communication is probably close to a 3 or 4-year-old at least. And she has pretty challenging gastrointestinal issues. So it's a daily process of managing bowels and things around here. So just kind of really a lovely sort of syndrome to have, in the sense that when she's comfortable and not anxious, she's absolutely delightful and affectionate. But as everybody listening probably appreciates, it's pretty extreme, and it's 24/7.
Right.
So.
And then you want to comment real quick, you also offer a Real Talk.
Yeah, we've been doing, since February, we launched a couple of things we're calling Real Talk. One is Real Talk live stream, and about once a week, usually on a Friday, we go live on Facebook and just have a very casual, spontaneous conversation about different topics that are kind of hot that week. And this afternoon, we're actually going live at 2 o'clock, and one of my oldest daughter is at our house today because we had a graduation online for the one in California yesterday. And so she's going to be with me. We're going to talk a little bit about growing up as a sibling and how in the quarantine that goes. So 2 o'clock Central Time today on the Walk Right In Ministries Facebook page. We also have a Tuesday afternoon Zoom group, Real Talk, with special needs family members, mostly moms, but anybody in a special needs family is welcome, even grandparents and adult siblings. We just ask that they be 16 years old or older. And you can register for that on by contacting us at walkrightin.org, and it's every Tuesday at 2 p.m.
Great.
On Zoom.
Awesome. Sarah McGuire, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, Doc. It's great to be here. And I just have to say, after social distance, it's so lovely to see all of your faces, and we miss getting together with all of you. So it's just great to see everybody here. But yes, I am the mom of 2 boys, the youngest of which was born allergic to all food except for sweet potato, and on the severe end of the autism spectrum. And of course, that came with sensory issues and all of that. So he is doing much, much better now. He still has his quirks and his challenges. But my husband and I, both of our backgrounds are in counseling. And at the time we went through all of this, the worst of it with our youngest son, my husband was actually in charge of staff care for a division of Wycliffe Bible Translators and was in charge of staff care for that organization around the world. And he was also doing trauma healing workshops, and he was in Sudan the year after it was a country, and working with refugees that were flooding into the camp by the thousands. And as he was working with them, he saw a parallel between the questions that they were asking and that he was helping them work through, and the questions that we had ourselves as special needs parents. And as we talked to other special needs parents, we saw that was universal, and it didn't matter what the special need was. As parents, we all came to the same questions and had very, very similar paths of struggle. So a few years after that, we stepped out of Wycliffe and we started Hope Anew. And Hope Anew, our mission is to guide families who are impacted by special needs through the unique hurts that they face to Christ-centered hope and healing. And our vision is to see all those parents thriving in the midst of the challenges they face in life. So we have started doing that in a variety of ways. We have a blog and a podcast, but it started with, like I said, out of the questions we saw at the refugee camp that then applied to special needs parents, we have written a curriculum that we teach online to groups, and it's more of a workshop more than a teaching, but of course they go hand in hand. So we do that online for groups through Hope Anew, and also when churches or groups just get together and say, hey, will you come and do that for us? It's a 6-week series. And then we've also launched in October of 2019, we launched an online community where we say our purpose statement for that community is that together we are building the most real, encouraging, hope-filled place for parents of kids with special needs to connect with a group that gets it. You know, a place where we can be real, but also point toward hope. And we don't have to explain ourselves to everybody, we just all get it. And so that has been an amazing group. I love to see what's going on in the depth of conversation and connection we're getting in that group. And so we have master classes, we have monthly themes, we have a bunch of stuff going on in there. So feel free if you are interested or find that as a need in your life to connect with others who get it. That's at hopeanew.com, and all the information you need is right there.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. And then Sarah, number 2, Sarah Broady, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's so good to see all you guys. I miss not getting to hug your necks this time of year like I normally do, but I'm glad to be here. My name is Sarah Boonstra, and I live in southern Indiana now with my husband Kyle and our 3 boys, 16, 14, and 12. And our 14-year-old Sam has autism. He was diagnosed when he was 2. He was severely nonverbal, self-injurious. Now he's very verbal, which we're thankful for. But he's come a very long way. And he's a freshman in high school and doing well. We just moved to southern Indiana. We were in ministry for over 11 years, and now my husband's gone back to his roots of education and teaching, and he's a choir teacher now. I have a blog, Hope in Autism, and I write for Key Ministry as well. And last year I started a podcast called A Special Hope, and that's been kind of on hold while we were moving, and then I got a job when we moved here, and so hopefully that'll be coming back. But it's still active and still putting things out there. So you can find me on iTunes, all the normal places. Since she's not here, I'll just say it for her, but Sandra Peoples also has an incredible ministry as well, sandrapeoples.com, and you can find her. She's got a great podcast called Self-Care and Soul Care for the Special Needs Mom. And just for moms, they're short, they're like 10 minutes long. She has shirts. And speaking of shirts, one of my favorite shirts is Redefine Life by Becky Davidson. It's the softest shirt I've ever put on. It's amazing. I love that shirt. So, so many good resources here in this group for you guys to find. So I'm excited to talk with you today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, ladies. I love having all of you and I thought it was appropriate to have a mom's panel as we're coming into Mother's Day weekend. Let me just kind of throw out, what has been so much is going on with the whole stay at home. Routines are completely changed. Now, not only are you being mom, you're, for some of you, you're all of a sudden school teacher, you're short order cook, you're the janitor, you're principal, you're the administrator, you're doing everything. Again, goes back to, you're the superhero, you're super mom. But that puts a huge struggle on you and just, makes things really difficult. How are you coping? What are some of your mechanisms just to be able to survive right now? What's your best advice for other moms?
We're all afraid to talk over each other.
Yeah.
I was going to say chocolate and hiding in my closet, but I think for us, just trying to have routine as much as possible has been really helpful. I was homeschooling Sam, and then when we moved here, we moved in the middle of the school year, and he decided he wanted to go to school. So it's been difficult for him because he wasn't really able to make friends before we didn't get to go to school anymore. So keeping in touch with their friends from back home, but even if you live in the same area, you still have to do it virtually now. So letting them have time on their phones to connect with their friends has been really helpful for them. Keeping routine as much as possible. Meal planning has been helpful. We have some nights where we have the same thing on the same nights. We always have Taco Tuesday. And then we discovered that Thursdays, by the time Thursday rolled around, we were just tired of cooking. We wanted to get out. So we grabbed the kids, we went in the van, we got curbside delivery from Chick-fil-A or wherever, and then we just drove around. And Friday nights have always been homemade pizza nights and family movie nights. So we've kind of kept to those family routines. And Sam, he loves watching movies. And so I think he's on a mission to watch every movie that's ever been made. But he wants to watch the good ones first. So he's been watching a movie every day, and he makes homemade popcorn on the stove. And so he needs to be able to make popcorn. So we have to keep popcorn in stock. So for us, it's just been trying to create routine wherever we can, even, little things, and bedtime and trying to stay on top of those things and just trying to keep things normal as much as we can. And allowing for the spontaneous when we can too.
You're muted, Lisa.
Sorry. At our house, we've been really intentional about trying to manage morale. It's kind of, for us, that's a huge, potentially the most significant thing, because a lot of the rest of it falls in place if we can kind of do that. I've done a fair bit of blogging over the last several weeks about what we're calling cooperative cocooning, which is kind of another way of just saying managing morale in a way that we're trying to cooperate with each other, to be attentive to darkening moods and the needs that each of us has, and We obviously have varying degrees of effectiveness with that at times, but just really trying to stay in tune with each other and what's going to help each other. We actually have a busier household than what I personally even might like at times. I'm grateful to have help with Carly, but it actually, for somebody like me who needs a lot of solitude, it's more people that I feel that I, as the mom, wear the primary hat for managing the morale of all those people. So just really kind of the demands of being creative all the time to, even though I have help, it's also another person to be thinking about in the house at all times. And for example, one of our caregivers with Carly, she's amazing. We would be dying right now without her willingness to stay careful about her own life and coming here a few days a week. But she needs people at least as much as our daughter Carly does. And she's had a real struggle at times with this quarantine. And in some ways it's a blessing for her to be able to get out of her own house and come here too. But, she comes as a more demanding person than she normally would be too. And she's not articulating that. She doesn't express that. I know her well enough to know that even when she's not saying what she needs, she still needs it. So, you could multiply that out for each family member. And so, for us, there are some similarities with what Sarah just described in terms of what we're doing to manage that. But it's really unique for every family because God's imprint on us each is so unique.
Yeah.
For me, it's staying in community as best I can because I'm a solo parent to, my son who's nonverbal. And so, there are days that I'll go, I didn't talk. I mean, other than, I talk to my son all day long. But there's been days that I've walked away going, I didn't talk to anybody today. And I am very much an extrovert. I'm very much a people person, and I very much thrive on interacting with other people. And so for me, I put some things in place where I have those connections, whether it be via Zoom or via Marco Polo app or whatever, to be able to stay in contact with someone, because if I don't, I can find myself starting to spiral very quickly. And so just for all of you out there who are single parents, for me, it's just making sure I'm staying in connection, in community as best I can right now. Keeps my morale up. I love what you were saying, Lisa. I mean, that's just so important. And just staying, if I'm staying positive, it's going to trickle down to everyone around me. And so I have to put things in place for me that helps me stay in that place of calm and peace. And so, because it's going to affect my son if I don't.
I feel like managing my own expectations has been really helpful, and understanding that what I think we're going to get done today is rarely what we're going to get done today, and just having a lot of grace. My kids are I think I have the youngest kids here. They, saying yes a lot more, like things that I wouldn't say yes to for my 4 and 6 year old. I'm like, you want to watch a second movie? Let's make some popcorn and watch a second movie, because it's raining. So what are we going to do? And kind of trying to be creative about different things. We have saved every single cardboard box that has come into our house in the last 2 weeks. And I've just said, yes, make whatever you want with it. Like those kind of things that are, I normally wouldn't say yes to. I'm a yes mom in quarantine, because I'm bored too. We're all kind of bored. But we don't use that word in this house. So we're going to find something else to do, So I think that has been our biggest thing. And Emmaus's helper is still coming. So kind of like what Lisa said, while it would be so hard without, there is that extra person that is dealing with quarantine in their own way too, that you're like managing. So that has been really good, and an extra thing. So
yeah, I would second so much of what was said. Routine is critical for us. Positive mindset is critical for us. In fact, that's our monthly theme this month in May in the online community is mindset. And because I think that's something we all couldn't focus on right now because we all need help with that. And that can be a daily challenge for every one of us just to get our mindset right and in a good place, because that flows out to everybody else. But I will say for us, it's been a little bit different with quarantine because we've been working from home and we already homeschool. So we've had those things in place for a while. However, we did just close on our house the week before the shutdown. And so we are now in a 37-foot travel trailer. So we're all on top of each other in quarantine, running a business, doing homeschool, and doing normal life. So we have definitely had to learn some new routines and some new how to put some oil in the relationships to make things run smooth and not grind on each other. And so a lot of that has just been teaching how to communicate to each other our needs. And then also realizing we can't always meet everybody's needs all at the same time. So there's times where others have to compromise. And so working through all those things and learning some signals too. Okay, if I have noise canceling headphones on, that means my office door is closed, but I don't have an office door. So that means office door is closed and I need to focus because I'm writing an article. And if I get interrupted, then that puts me a half an hour behind on my work to get back into that brain space. So there's things like that. That's for us as parents. That's for my kids as homeschoolers, that we've learned to use headphones a lot. And we've learned to respect others' signs of don't interrupt me right now because I need this time and I need quietness in order to concentrate and accomplish what needs to be accomplished. Now, as a mom, I've also learned I am an introvert and I get recharged by having some space and alone time. So I've learned whether that's just putting on a brainless novel so that I can kind of zone out and do that as I fall asleep or take a nap or whatever, if I have the time in my day, or whether I just go for a walk. We have a state park just up the road. And so that has been a huge, huge relief to me this month while the weather has gotten nice, just to be able to go take a couple mile walk and get some sunshine, get some fresh air, get some exercise, get those hormones going in my head that help from those things rather than just staying in a little space on top of each other all the time.
Right. Yeah. And, I love everything you guys shared. And one thing I just want to kind of throw in and remind everyone is while we're in, this whole stay at home and life's upside down right now, I want to remind everyone who's listening and everyone here and who will listen here later, this is temporary. This is not a permanent thing. And, we can get so wrapped up and so frustrated with how things are right now and thinking, oh, things will never get back to normal. We're not going to get this. We need to get out. We need this and that. Realize this is temporary. We may not ever go back to normal the way it was, but we'll have a near normal and things will be getting there. But be patient. And I love, what Sarah was just saying with that. And my word that I'm using throughout this, and it's kind of one of my key words in life, is the word perspective. We just need to make sure we're working on our perspective and change that. So many times I see, when we're in this, we can get so wrapped up on all the negative things going on and just end up in this spiral going down. Oh my gosh, I have no idea how to homeschool my kid. This new math, I don't get new math. I'm trying to teach old math and that's completely wrong. And that messes up my kid. And if you just get so wrapped up on little things like this, it'll just send you down. But we need to take a step back and change our perspective and look for the positive in some things. And you know what? Maybe the positive one day is, holy cow, the sun is out today. We've had several days of rain and miserable weather. Well, today we finally have sun. praise God. It's a nice day. Be thankful for that. At the same time, look at some of the extra things you might be getting to do or things that you wouldn't have gotten to do otherwise. So just change your perspective and see how you can go through things. I want to remind our attendees who are watching, you can use the chat function or the Q&A to put your questions on there for our panelists as well. Next question I have for everyone is, through this whole process, how can the church, especially disability ministries, come alongside families and assist families through this time? I know, for me, what we're doing with SOAR, we're actually calling every single one of our parents. Just let them know we love them, we're praying for them, and find out how we can pray. But it's hard, when you can't go to church and try to figure out how to minister. What are specific things or ideas that you see that the church might be able to do to help support your family through a time like this?
Doc, one of the things that I'm big on prayer, and I think we don't talk about prayer enough, and we worry sometimes that sounds like it's just kind of pushing it off to that, and then we're not going to follow up with practical things. But we really do have to start with prayer, and we have to, as a church, we have to understand that most of the time these families aren't going to ask for prayer. They feel like they're a broken record. They feel they're too demanding. They're discouraged because prayers sometimes don't feel answered. But the reality is they're encouraged by prayer. They need prayer. And so I think the church needs to realize that they have to initiate that and almost babysit the process, because that alone will be a huge encouragement. So not only when we're checking in to just see how things are going and ask to pray, ask their permission to share that on the church's prayer chain, and then really take a kind of a facilitator role, even in terms of initiating some ideas about how we can pray for them. So they share a prayer request. We add a couple of things and say, I'm thinking that you could also use prayer for this and this. Is that okay? Like, is that an appropriate way to pray? Yeah. So they know I've not just heard your request, but I empathize enough to know that maybe I can anticipate some other things you might not have voiced because you're worried that you're only allowed to ask for one thing. And then when they say, yeah, or it gives them permission to add a couple of alternative things, we write those down as a church and we share them with our prayer chain, and we reassure that person, I'm not just praying for you right now. I'm not just saying some words that I hope will encourage, but I'm actually documenting this, and I'm going to advocate for you with others. And then do that, and even another step could be to buddy that family up with somebody in the church who wants to be prayer partners for them or wants to support and encourage them. Because ultimately, even that relationship that starts with just a prayer commitment during a quarantine could develop into some other parts of their even casual community in the future. So.
Yeah, that's good.
I think just doing what you were doing, Doc, checking on people. I think so often special needs families feel overlooked and feel like nobody sees them. And I think, like yesterday, for example, our lead pastor at our church, out of the blue, just called to check on us. I go to a big church, and, but he called to check on us and see if we needed anything. And that just made me go, okay, my church sees me, even though we're not together, even though we're not there. And even in good times, whatever, we're not always there on a Sunday morning. It just doesn't happen in our little family. So for someone to know, okay, you've been missed, you haven't been seen, we want to just check on you and know that you have value and we care about you. And, is there anything we can do to help you? So I think just simple things like that is really not simple. I mean, the impact is huge for a family to feel acknowledged and seen and valued.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking, should I really say this? But I just got to say, unfortunately, there are going to be those families who feel like when they get that call, I just got checked off the list. They're doing this for everybody. I'm really not necessarily specially seen. I'm just getting the call. And I'll tell you, I've even caught myself feeling that way sometimes, especially when all they do is leave a message, because now they don't follow up. They just have gone down their list. Oh, we called the Jamiesons. We had to leave a message, but then they don't call back. So I would just say be sensitive to that, because I'm as guilty as a lot of families that I've worked with all over the country of not having as gracious an attitude as I should sometimes, because it's a hard life. And as much as I know that I appreciate people checking in, I have a real unfortunate sensitivity, as many do, to feeling that's genuine sometimes, even when it is. And let me make that clear. They may be very genuine. I really think they are. But the work I have to do mentally to convince myself I'm not just somebody on their list to check off is what a lot of parents do, unfortunately. So just being really sensitive. And that's why I say when we offer to pray, like going that next step and really understanding that we're getting and yes, if you ask, you might open the tip of the iceberg and get more than you wanted. But the reality is that's ministry. Like if they had a whole bunch there that they needed to all of a sudden, when they felt permission to unload, they did. You know what? It might have taken you half hour or an hour or even an hour and a half that you didn't anticipate when you made that check-in call. But the reality is, isn't that what the ministry we're wanting to do? Like, we're hoping that our calls do ministry. And sometimes that's going to mean 90 minutes of ministry.
Right.
I'm going to add to what Lisa says, because what she says is so very true. I know I fall into the trap of wanting to help solve the problem. And to realize that that's not your job and you don't have to solve the problem. Just listening and caring is 99% of what the person needs. Just to know they're heard, cared, and loved for. Or, loved on is huge. And I'll add to that too. When you mentioned praying for people, I'll say too, if you can, and you do get a hold of them, to pray with them on the phone. So it's not just a token, oh yeah, we'll pray for you. And they don't know if you do or not, but just hearing themselves prayed for is so powerful.
Absolutely agree. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take this question a little bit of a different turn, if that's okay. So
Absolutely.
Sorry, my house is getting a little loud. Hope you guys all can't hear that. My husband just came to close the door. Okay, we're good. About a year and a half ago at our church, we kind of had this issue where we really felt unseen, which I think is a very common thing with a parent that has special needs. Emmaus was just going through a really dark time. Our family was going through a dark time. There was just so much anxiety, and we weren't handling her anxiety well. And we just felt really overwhelmed by all of that. And I think that all of this period of time could also really lead to that in families. Especially like Lisa was saying, if you have a kiddo that is social, and that lack of social ability, brings our anxiety up. But one thing that we found was that as we finally addressed our church and really kind of said, hey, we feel like you let us down. And they owned that and said, yeah, we'll do better. And they have done so much better. But as I reflected on our part of that, I felt like we were really bad at asking for help too, and letting people know what's going on. So I just want to encourage people that are listening. If your church is not reaching out, if they're doing a poor job, you also have the power to reach in, to just text someone and say, we're drowning. Like, we need prayer. We need, and I know that is so uncomfortable, but I just want to give you a little power in that. Like, it is so hard to step over that bridge and do that, but church is like a partnership, I mean, it's a relationship. And so we have to be healthy in our side of the relationship. Now, not giving you church advice, but if you don't get a response from that, that's a warning sign. But I don't know. I just want to encourage people to also be proactive in that reach out part. It feels vulnerable, but you aren't requesting too much. You aren't too much. Your kids are not. Like, our kids are among the most precious in the kingdom of heaven. Like they're forever children, and that is so precious to the Lord. And our churches are there to support us, and we have to learn to ask for that too. So as being I'm not part of a ministry that is doing any of that reach out. And I understand the check off thing that Lisa was talking about too, because I have also been guilty of that.
Yeah, I'd encourage families to reach out and like you said, make sure you ask for help and don't hold back, but ask. And that's one of the, there are so many times I talk with families and I truly want to help or find ways to help. And, families are just afraid to ask. And so I'd encourage if you ever have someone asking how they can help you, give them ways. That's probably the best advice I could ever give. So I'm sorry, I just interrupted someone.
I feel like it's so selfish, and yet if we remember that in God's economy, that giving and receiving thing, like as we learn to receive and others are able to give, he does things in that we rob him of if we don't express what it is that we need. And some people are just temperamentally less expressive, and then they get bitter because they want people to read their minds. I think it helps when we think from a kingdom perspective that by our asking, we're helping to educate the church about how to be the church. And like you alluded to, Laurisa, if people in the church don't receive that as an opportunity to learn, then that's their issue, not ours. I learned this from an elderly woman in my church when Carly was really young and we were taking the first big step of asking for help. She became a widow when she was probably around the same age that you became a widow, Becky. And of course, she was young enough that none of her friends knew what her world was like. Just like we are special needs moms, and when we became one, we didn't probably know anybody who knew our world. And this woman told me, I didn't want the responsibility of teaching everybody how to be a good friend to a 40-year-old widow, but God gave me that as a mission. I didn't choose it, but I saw the opportunity to help the world and the church learn how to be helpful to a young widow. Becky's doing the same thing. She's teaching us how to be special needs moms when we have to do that solo. In normal circumstances out of a quarantine, my husband travels 1 week a month. And so I'm a widow or a single parent 1 whole week a month. I have to do things really differently that week than I do the rest of the time, So anyway, I think when we think about it, like from a kingdom perspective, it takes some of the pressure off of ourselves for feeling so self-serving, but also gives us a broader perspective, like you said, Doc. Like we can see that we're part of something bigger, and doesn't that feel empowering to all of us?
Yeah.
When people show up, I mean, even if I asked for it, it doesn't take away the blessing of that and just the connectedness of that. When I ask and then someone shows up, that it just is such a cool thing.
I think too that sometimes, kind of like Lisa earlier, I'm not sure how to quite say this, but sometimes we can we think we're going to be a burden by asking for help, but really we end up robbing other people of providing a blessing, because when people want to help, they genuinely want to help, and we shouldn't be taking that in as pity or charity, but just that they are wanting to bless us and that we are providing them a way to bless us. Does that make sense? And so it can be a prideful thing to not ask for help. to not be willing to say, you know, this is what we need right now. This is what we're in need of. And it doesn't matter what the need is. It can kind of be a prideful thing to, you know, we've known people that have had needs, that have had obvious needs, and we've reached out to help them, and they're like, no, we've got it. And it actually broke part of the relationship because they wouldn't let us in. So if we're not willing to let people in, then we can't be surprised when they don't offer.
Yeah, good. Real quick, and I know we could probably talk a little bit more on this. We've got a question that came in. I want to make sure we answer it here. But a mom had sent in, how do I help my non-diagnosed child learn and understand that just because their diagnosed sibling has temper tantrums and meltdowns, that they don't have to exhibit those same behaviors? So we got a neurotypical sibling who is modeling the behavior of the temper tantrums and meltdowns. How would you handle that? And Becky, you're probably off on this one since you only have one child. It's hard when you don't have the siblings there.
That can be a hard thing. We have 3 boys. Sam's diagnosed with autism. Our youngest one, we thought there were maybe some issues, and we had him tested, but there was never any diagnosis, you know, but he's, you know, he has modeled older brother's issues too. And so trying to address the heart of the child and what's going on there. Where is this really coming from? Where is it stemming from? Is it stemming from the fact that the sibling with the diagnosis is getting all the attention? And so if he does that and he gets attention from mom and dad or other family, then I can do it too. And that way I'll get attention. And negative attention is attention. It doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative. They just want to be seen. And so finding out, and I feel like Lisa could really speak to this maybe better than I can, but finding kind of the root of where that's coming from. Where is that coming from? There's an unmet need somewhere, and that's causing the behavior to come out. But finding the unmet need sometimes, you know, it's never about the toy itself. You know, if we're talking about, I want the toy, I'm having a meltdown over the toy. It's never about the toy. Sometimes it's about the toy, but you know what I mean? So it can, but there's something there that's not being met, and that's why they're exhibiting these things. And we're really great at imitating our surroundings, and imitating what we see gets attention. And we do this ourselves on social media, right? We see so-and-so started a YouTube video and they got 1 million views, so we'll start a YouTube video or an Instagram channel or whatever it is. You know, we are imitating what others do so that we can have success, whatever that success means to us. And so where is it coming from? And so we've had to kind of figure out with our kid, you know, okay, well, let's go deeper, you know, why is this happening? Where is this happening? And you have to be, you know, on top of mom and everything else that you listed earlier. Now you have to be detective too. And so figuring out where that is, it can be difficult, but once you reach it, and then you can modify and say, okay, so it looks like you are needing, and I'm not good at coming up with something on the spot, but you're needing X, Y, Z. So how can we, you know, give them some ways to request what they're needing that are appropriate, that aren't going to mimic what older brother or sister is doing that isn't appropriate for them.
Yeah, and I would suggest, you know, everything that Sarah said, yes. And then also to help hone in on that would be, I would look at like the 5 Love Languages books in that series and finding out exactly, you know, how to meet that child's needs so that they know that they are loved and they feel it. Because we might be expressing it in our language. In fact, I kept trying to do this with our neurotypical son. I kept trying to spend time with him because that's my love language. And I learned that his love language is words of affirmation. And that was so much easier for me to do for him. And it made such a bigger difference because I could do that in shorter spans of time, and I could build into him constantly throughout the day instead of actually having to find a chunk of time where I could have individually with him. So yeah, that made a huge difference for us, what Sarah said, and then really honing in on that child and what their love language is. And then focusing on that and building positives in rather than always being down on him for his negative behavior.
Great point.
You know, sometimes, especially when the child who's mimicking the behavior is usually, we're talking about somebody much younger. And I'll give you an example of someone I worked with who had a 15-year-old with Angelman syndrome and then a new baby. And by the time that little boy was 3 years old, he was mimicking a lot of things he saw. And it was just out of naivety. And it was just a matter of training him, a process of teaching him what was more appropriate, because he didn't know that wasn't appropriate. Why would he know? You know, that's the person he's with most often. And putting him in situations where he could see more age-appropriate behavior. But then also recognizing that, especially when they're really young, they're going to have tantrums sometimes. They're going to have negative behavior sometimes. And as special needs parents, we can develop oversensitivity to thinking it's always about the disability thing. That because they have a sibling that behaves like that, this behavior must be a model. Well, it might actually not. We might be overreacting and making everything about the disability all the time when in fact it isn't as much about that. I often have to tell parents we need to be on guard about parenting out of fear that what we're seeing in this moment right now that's really challenging is going to be reflective in 20 years from now. And it so often isn't. In fact, we often do a disservice to our kids by overreacting to the right this minute thing that's going on.
I was just going to say that there's a couple things that I see in my girls with this. And the first one has to do with me, that I am not listening to them or paying attention to them. And so then they resort to my child that's not neurotypical, her poor coping behaviors that do get attention. And guess what? It gets them attention real quick. So I have to check myself of like, okay, am I, when they have called my name 4 or 5 times, am I responding quickly, or am I so busy doing something else that I'm just not even paying attention? Which I think, at least I will just speak for myself, I am guilty of at times. I'm cooking dinner, I'm doing something else, and they're waving the flags and I'm not even paying attention. So I have to, I guess I would say, hey, are you paying attention? And it's okay if you're not, but that might solve the problem in itself. And then the other thing is, since it's my oldest that has a disability, and then my other 2 girls are 2 and 4 years younger, even just giving them understanding of like, oh, that works for Emmaus. I know, I'm acknowledging and validating. You're trying to get my attention and I was not paying attention. And so you're doing this, but Emmaus does not have words. She cannot say to me, Mom, I'm trying to talk to you. And you know, those kind of things. And so just even giving them a kind of a comparison, or, you know, hey, this is an appropriate way for you to get my attention, or this is an appropriate way. If you're frustrated, like, we have these skills. So anyway, yeah.
And we all need a safe space, right? To express big emotions at times. And moms tend to they want to stop and fix the big emotions for their kids. And sometimes they just need a minute to let off some steam too. And we need to allow them, I mean, with respect, you know, like you can blow off steam without calling names and kicking people. I'm guilty of letting off steam sometimes too. So my kids see it modeled for me sometimes too. So. Right.
And you know, the important thing through all of this, you know, and especially for any parent, we need a parent with grace and realize that and everything, and just having, you know, those conversations. And one of the things that, you know, and I learned this early too, as being a parent, without realizing it, you without trying to, end up neglecting your other children sometime. You put so much attention on your child with the disability, and you don't mean it. You don't not love them any less than your other kids, but sometimes it's just carving out that extra time and sitting down with them, maybe reading a book, watching a movie with them, and just letting them know, hey, you know what, I'm sorry that I don't always get to give you the time, the attention that you deserve, but I really do love you. You know, you mean so much to me. And just saying that and reaffirming them, just like Sarah was saying, even if that's not their love language, just letting them know that and reminding them that, I think, is huge. But ladies, we're coming up on the top of the hour. You know, we could just talk forever here, but I want to thank you all so much for joining us. Sarah Broady had to run. She has to get back to work. She took her lunch hour to talk with us, so she had to jump off early. Couple things I want to share with everyone is SOAR is going to be doing a fun event coming up. We are going to do something called Soaring with Talent. We are going to create a virtual online talent show. And we're going to use it as a fundraiser, but we're opening it to everybody. And we're going to welcome partner organizations to partner with us as a result. And we'll even have a track that will be for other organizations that do disabilities. And whatever you end up raising, you know, if you hit so much, 10% of that, be able to go back to your organization. So it'll be a real easy way for other organizations to get some money, especially during this time where fundraising is so hard right now with COVID-19. But it's going to be something fun where we'll be able to see a lot of fun things there. Also, save the dates. We will have the Wonderfully Made Conference. And all of our panelists today, hopefully, are going to be a part of our Wonderfully Made Conference. This year, there is guaranteed not going to be a cancellation of the conference because we're going all online. It's going to be virtual. It now will be October the 19th through the 23rd, so be saving the dates. If you're interested in speaking, contact us. We're still looking for speakers and would love to have you be a part of us for that. Next week's Talk with Doc, I'm going to have Lindsay Ty. She is with the Oakland Mediation Center, and we are going to be talking on how to get along when we don't agree. And it's going to be a great topic. It's great when you go into those IEP meetings. It's great when you don't agree with your church and need to talk through that. It's great when you have to talk with your child, with your spouse, with relatives, with your neighbor. It's just going to be some great information that's going to be able to be applied anywhere. So make sure you come back next week, May the 15th. We'll be sending out registration later this afternoon. But Lindsay Ty, how to get along when we don't agree. It's going to be a great time with that. If you enjoy our Talk with Docs, I'd encourage you to partner with us so that we can continue to do those. You can go to soarspecialneeds.com/donate and join our team to help continue this. But ladies, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having all of you, and love having you guys. Again, all of our people watching, I encourage you to tap into each one of these women and what they have to offer. So many great resources, and we'll be posting these as well for you to get into. But ladies, thank you so much. And again, happy Mother's Day. Hope you have an amazing weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.